Right Fight fans, in honour of Alexander Usyk, the new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, let's take a look at the history of the Lineal Heavyweight Championship. Starting with the Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. Sullivan was the last of the bare knuckle boys and also the first of the glove champions. He'd been the king of the division since 1882, with victories over Paddy Ryan, Charlie Mitchell and Jake Kilrain confirming his status. Sullivan was a strong boy, a big puncher, but really was a little bit of a hybrid. His most devastating move, apart from his big right hand, was grabbing you by the waist and throwing you on the floor. Sullivan was famed throughout America. He'd walk into a bar and proclaim that he would whoop any man in the house, and he was completely right, he could. Until that is, he met a young boxer named James J. Corbett. Corbett from New York City had some big ideas, like avoiding punches for one thing. Corbett was a good boxer. He actually used lateral movement, defense, and his brain. He also had a good left jab. When Corbett fought Sullivan, he boxed rings round him. 21 rounds later, Corbett was the heavyweight champion of the world. Corbett only managed one title defense in the next 5 years, destroying poor old Brit Charlie Mitchell in 3 rounds. Corbett was a sex symbol, a fancy Dan, and a big-time celebrity, so he had little time for the boxing ring. When he returned to the ring, he squared off against former unbeaten middleweight boss Bob Fitzsimmons. The Cornishman's Fitzsimmons was a big puncher, he was rangy and he was smart. Still, Corbett boxed rings round him, but was starting to slow down due to Fitzsimmons' body shots when in the 14th round, one shot to the solar plexus sent Corbett down and out, and we had a new heavyweight champion of the world. Less than 2 years later though, Fitz was a former world champion when he squared off against James J. Jeffries. 6 foot 1.5 inches tall, 15 stone, slabs of muscle. James J. Jeffries was a big, strong bloke. Nicknamed the Boilermaker for his old profession, Jeffries was athletic. He could run 100 yards in 10 seconds. He was extraordinarily durable. He could take a right hammer in and keep going, and he had a powerful left hook. And that left hook led him to the heavyweight championship as he stopped Fitzsimmons in 11 rounds. Over the next 5 years, Jeffries would make 7 title defences, most notably knocking out Fitzsimmons in a rematch and twice knocking out James J. Corbett. In all 3 of those fights, Jeffries was taking a right kicking but still found a way to win. In another notable defence, he won a 25-round points decision over tough Tom Sharkey. Feeling that he'd cleaned out the division, in 1904, Jeffries retired. His successor was Louisville, Kentucky's lesser-known heavyweight champion, Marvin Hart. Hart was a leading heavyweight contender owing to his points victory over Jack Johnson, the leading black heavyweight in the world. Now, I've read that this decision was controversial, but I don't know if that's accurate, to be honest. What I do know is he knocked out former light heavyweight boss Jack Root in 12 rounds to be recognised as a heavyweight champion. He would reign less than a year, as in 1906 he was outboxed by Tommy Burns. At just 5'7", Burns was a small heavyweight. However, he was a quick heavyweight. With his hands down, he used to dart in and out of range. He had some power, and he was set to dominate the division. 13 defences followed for Burns, most notably knocking out British champion Gunnar Moyer, contender fireman Jim Flynn, and Bill Lang and Bill Squires. His best victory was over Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, the light heavyweight champion. You see, Philadelphia Jack had claimed the heavyweight championship himself. Once Jeffries retired, Philadelphia Jack said that the title had reverted to Bob Fitzsimmons, who he had defeated. So when the two clashed and it ended in a 20-round draw, a rematch was required. This time, Burns won it on points over 20 to confirm his status as the heavyweight champ. Burns was also the first global champion. Not only did he fight in America, he fought in France, London, Ireland, and Australia. Some said that he was on the run, avoiding leading black heavyweight contender Jack Johnson, but he couldn't avoid Johnson forever. In 1908 in Sydney, Australia, Jack Johnson was finally given a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. Johnson had confirmed himself to be the best black heavyweight in the world, with victories over the likes of Sam Langford, Sam McPhee, Joe Giannetti, and Frank Childs. He had also whipped former heavyweight champion Bob Fitzsimmons, and it came as no surprise whatsoever when he picked Burns apart in 14 one-sided rounds to become the new heavyweight champion of the world. Johnson was a master boxer, a brilliant counterpuncher who was extremely effective on the inside and effective at spoiling. 7 defences would follow for Johnson, most notably a defence against Stanley Ketchel, the middleweight boss. Beforehand, it was decided that Johnson would carry Ketchel, but Ketchel, being a wild man, decided he was going to betray Johnson, knock him out, and win the heavyweight championship of the world. After 11 nod wink wink rounds, Stanley decided it was time to unleash the double cross, in his case, his ultra-powerful right hand. He nailed Johnson on the jaw with it, Johnson went down, and then Johnson got up. When the action resumed, Johnson knocked Ketchel unconscious with his very next punch, a huge right uppercut. Rumour has it that several of Ketchel's teeth were embedded into Johnson's glove. With white America in mad panic, they turned to James J. Jeffries to get off his alfalfa farm, return to the ring, whip Jack Johnson, and return the championship to the white race. It didn't turn out like that. Johnson outboxed, outpunched, outclassed a very brave but past his best Jeffries and stopped him in 15 one-sided rounds. Johnson was a highly controversial figure at the time, confident, flashy and brash. All the things he was supposed to not be. He also drew criticism for not fighting the leading black heavyweight contenders. The only black contender he fought was battling Jim Johnson. The bout ended in a 10-round draw, though Jack was hindered by a badly injured left arm. While Johnson was dominating the division, white America turned to various white hopes, all of whom were pretty crap. But in 1915, one of these white hopes rose to the occasion and won the heavyweight championship of the world. His name was Jess Willard. Willard was a huge man by today's standards. In 1915, he was an absolute giant. He stood 6'6" tall and weighed 245 pounds. He could also punch and was as slow as an iceberg. When Johnson defended the championship against Willard, he outboxed the lumbering giant with counterpunching, but Willard was extraordinarily strong and durable. The fight also took place in the sweltering heat of Cuba. By round 26 against this huge man, Johnson had run out of steam. Willard had landed some good body shots and he knocked Johnson out with a booming right hand. Johnson would later claim that he took a dive. He didn't. The right hand was a big shot. He was just knackered. And so the heavyweight championship of the world was back with a white man. Over the next 4 years, Willard would make precisely one defence. Squaring off against Frank Moran, the bout was a 10-round no decision. Willard was thought to have got the better of the bout, owing to his dominance from range. But come 1919, we had a little firecracker coming through the ranks. Jack Dempsey. The Manasseh Mauler was a hard-hitting former hobo who was bloody vicious. When he squared off against Willard, Dempsey was all over him like a cheap suit, battering him from the first bell. Before round 1 was out, Willard had been down 7 times. He was simply too slow and too wide open for someone as ferocious as Dempsey. Miraculously, Willard made it through the first round and he came out for the second and third, but all he got was more punishment. He managed to keep on his feet though, but at the end of the third round, he rightly retired and we had a new heavyweight champion of the world, Jack Dempsey, and he was just in time for the Roaring 20s. Fight fans, that was part 1 of the history of the heavyweight championship of the world. Please tune in for part 2 as we follow on with Jack Dempsey's story. And please be so kind as to like and subscribe. I do appreciate it.